Good morning! Welcome to Sunday Morning Announcements with the Jocelyn Gray avatar. If you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, please subscribe to get notifications when we have new videos. If you're with us on Zoom, say hi in the chat. We'd love to say hello back. If you're with us in person, hello everybody here! And if this is your first visit, please sign the guest book either in the lobby or online at oakcliffuu.org/guest. Today, Sunday, November 3rd, we have a special guest in our pulpit. Bobbye Eachus will be talking about her journey from citizen soldier to an Indigenous faith. After Bobbye served in the Gulf War as an activated citizen soldier, finding a faith that worked has been a journey that included searching cultures, 12-step recovery, and work with the VA on complex PTSD issues and the pursuit of mental health. This promises to be a very interesting service. And we hope you can stick around after the service today for Talkback, where we gather in a circle and discuss the service and related topics. For those online, see the Zoom chat at the end of the service for the meeting information. After Talkback today, we'll have a worship ministry meeting at 1 o'clock in the Charity North meeting room and online. Everyone interested in helping plan our services is welcome to attend. Also, please note that we have a new schedule for the worship ministry and coordinating council meetings. The coordinating council will now be meeting online on the first Monday of every month at 7 o'clock. And thank you to everyone who helped make our Haunted Forest event a success. Thank you, Rita Jackson and Kathy Gray, for the photos. We even received a 5-star review on Google. Haunted Forest was worth every penny, nice setup, nice tour, kid-friendly as well. And coming up next week, we have an important question. Are you comfortable talking with others about our UU faith? Would you like to polish your elevator speech? Intuck is presenting a special workshop on November 9th from 1 to 3 p.m. at First Unitarian Church of Dallas to guide participants through developing an elevator speech about our Unitarian Universalist faith. It will help them feel more confident about articulating our faith, empowering them and helping them feel ownership to live and speak about our faith in the larger community. Participants will leave with a draft of their own short, concise elevator speech. As Intuck is underwriting this workshop, there is no charge to attend. Several of us are already planning on going, so please drop a note to webmaster@oakcliffuu.org if you would like to carpool and save the hassles of parking at First Church on a Saturday. Also next week, the Social Justice Ministry Reading Group will meet online Thursday, November 7th, to continue discussing their latest selection, Solidarity is the Political Version of Love, Lessons from Jewish Anti-Zionist Organizing by Rebecca Vilkemerson and Alyssa Wise. The group meets weekly on Zoom at 7:30 p.m. on most Thursdays. Please contact Mavis with any questions at sjm@oakcliffuu.org. Remember, all this and more is in your eBlast newsletter. Not receiving the eBlast? Just sign up at oakcliffuu.org/enews. It's that easy. Have you signed up but still aren't getting the eBlast? As our tech guy Scott says, don't forget to check your spam folder and make sure that news@oakcliffuu.org is in your contacts. And this week we get to celebrate a member anniversary. Sandy Kokenauer joined us on November 1st, 2009. Happy anniversary, Sandy. That's it for now. I hope you all have a great week.
May the light now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of love, compassion, and forgiveness.
Everyone loves this hymn. It is based on a poem by Rumi.
Broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of our despair. Come yet again, come.
WCOC.
Good morning, y'all. This morning we have a reading from Reverend Scotty McLennan. To find your religion, it's not enough just to open one's mind and think deeply. Each of us must also open all of our senses and experience the world. Religion grows from the heart as much as the head, and it cries out to fuse body and mind. Faith is an orientation of the whole personality, a total response. It's not just a belief, the holding of certain ideas, which is a function of the mind alone. Beliefs can be expressed in propositional form to which adjectives true and false may be attached. Faith, by contrast, is the opposite of nihilism and despair. It may or may not include beliefs, but it is much larger. It is the ability to experience the universe as meaningful. Having faith means that our lives hold together and make sense at a deeper level, rather than seeming absurd. Therefore, your religion is something you not only think about, but also sing, dance, eat, paint, and sculpt. To find your religion, you must engage all of your senses. You should feel it as well as explain it, hear it as well as see it, taste it as well as smell it. Thank you.
In our community, we take time each week to share what is in our hearts and on our minds. If your heart is heavy today, know that you don't have to carry that burden alone. Together, we can offer comfort. For those on Zoom, please share your sorrows publicly by posting them in the chat.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
We also share our joys with one another, knowing that joy calls unto joy amplified. Together, our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. For those on Zoom, please share your joys publicly by posting them in the chat. So welcome to the UU Church of Oak Cliff. Here we seek to build a community where what you believe is less important than how your beliefs guide and inform your participation in the world. Ours is a community that strives to value the inherent worth and dignity of every living human being. To our returning visitors, we are happy that you have joined us again. We know that time is precious and we're honored to have you here today. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to anyone joining us for the first time. We recognize your bravery it takes to come in to a new place, and we're glad you're here. We are not a creedal church. There is not one set of beliefs that we expect all people to accept. Our beliefs are diverse and inclusive. We are a covenantal church, Latin for come together. Covenant means an agreement or promise from the heart regarding a course of action between parties. The practice of promising to work together, to walk together, is the core of our faith. Simply put, it's a guide for the behavior we expect from ourselves and from each other. We are bound together by our promises we make to one another, and we recite our covenant during every worship service. Please rise and embody our spirit. Because we love one another, we honor each individual's spiritual journey. We celebrate life's abundance in service to each other, our community, and the world. We connect with each other in love, respect, and acceptance. Thus do we covenant together. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce my good friend Bobbye Eachus from Citizen Soldier to an Indigenous faith. I'll let her speak for herself.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Bobbye, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here among you and our like-minded, open-spirited moment of silence and sharing. And I'm going to pray for a second and get myself centered so that I can offer you whatever it is I'm supposed to offer today. Creator Tinkashala Wankantanka, Ina Ansi Maka Makiayo, Lami Wachoni. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this way to pray. Thank you for good health. Thank you for help. Creator, guide me in my words, my actions, my attitudes, and intentions, and help me to be of service to you and your other God kids. Thank you for my life. Homatakuyasi. So, y'all, I am a native Texas daughter. I was actually born here, not imported from anywhere else, and I'm not sure where I'd go if they hollered go home, because I'm already home. I am a North Texas girl. My dad worked real hard to keep moving us, but we always commuted back to North Texas. And I come from a long line of people that have looked for a connection and have affiliated with some pretty rigid or demonstrative religious cultures. I've got generations of Welsh Presbyterians, and I've got generations that helped found Salt Lake City. And we're not people that can be told anything, but when we find something, we're a little myopic about it. Nearsighted, for those of you that don't play Scrabble. And mine is a story of it takes what it takes. I've always been seeking that place where I'm invited to the table to break bread with you. And when I go places, whether it's Walmart or Idaho, I do my very best to get invited to dinner, to get to know your grandparents and get adopted into your family. Because that's the only way I know to connect. When I seek that intimacy with you and I share with you my heart and I tell you my truth and I sing with you and I pray with you, we can't help but have that friendship, that idea that perhaps there's something in common. Now, being a Texas girl, I'm going to use some funny words. And I'm going to use some funny phrases. And Texas has a funny way of tossing you in the rock tumbler and churning you around a little bit until some of those rough edges come off. And I assure you, it's taken a few turns in the tumbler to be the woman that I am today. I'm the adult child of 2 alcoholic parents. We have soldiers going back to both civil wars over in Scotland. I've got people that came and helped build this country in the pre-colonial times, both in Mexico and in the United States before it became. So, salt of the earth, myopic, necessity. I also come from people that were already here. In the great state of Texas and the Republic of Mexico, it was just a Republic of Texas there at the time, but they called all brown-skinned people Mexicans and effectively erased hundreds of tribes, or so the oral tradition's been handed to me. And I've done my best to ferret out what's true, and some things I can't find an answer for, but I can find a peace with. I've been searching a long time, and many times I've found what would work right then. And my greatest betrayals are when I discover that I didn't see the whole picture because I was standing too close. Or I didn't want to know what I was looking at, and it was easier to rely on an authority. Whether it was my father, or it was a drill sergeant, or it was somebody that was esteemed and well thought of in our community. Whether it's a prayer community or a school community, a service group, or at work. I've had appropriate relationships, and I have also discovered, after great investment, that I've invested with nearsightedness. And each of those disappointments have developed my character. I can't tell you who God is, but I can share with you what I perceive God does. I trust in good, orderly direction. I trust in the gift of desperation. I believe in a code of conduct that's been fashioned with blood, sweat, tears, and companionship, camaraderie, hard work, and loss. So, being that adult child of alcoholic parents, guess what? I came into the world with a pretty serious case of alcoholism. And contrary to what I thought, was it doesn't take drinking alcohol to be an alcoholic or influenced by the family disease of alcoholism. If you're lucky enough to have the allergy, there's a room for that. And it's much harder to recover from the spiritual illness that is alcoholism when you don't have the allergy. But it touches the generations. There's a sister program that talks about how one alcoholic can affect 3 generations. And that violent, broken, spiritually bankrupt person raises children that'll never touch a drink. And then their children take a drink and wonder why they're acting like fools in public. And it's a funny culture. It's a real funny culture, especially when you try to get along in whatever community will have us. So, I moved a lot. My dad could drink up a town in about 9 months. And we moved more after he was out of the Air Force than when he was in. I moved 15 times, I don't remember my stats right this second. There were quite a few times. I went to 15 schools, 4 high schools. So I was always the new kid, and I was always seeking acceptance and a place and a best friend. And sometimes I even found a best friend. And I definitely was taken care of by grace. It wasn't anything I did right. So that being said, I tried a few things, I did a few things, and not everyone in charge was very pleased with my choices. First off were my parents. Second was the organized religion that I was a part of. I had a little conflict with the youth leader, and they talked to me about these lesbian tendencies, and I had to go home and look it up in the dictionary because I had no idea what they were talking about. And it kind of hurt my feelings, because the place of worship had always been my constant, no matter where we moved. There was a structure, there was a breaking of bread, there was a compassion and an inclusion. There was also the fallibilities of human beings, doing our best to appear a certain way, to do things in a certain way, to represent that code that we discover gives us worth. Needless to say, I'm one of those people that when I put chemicals in my body, I don't have presence of mind to make better choices than are made. Getting off all of that influence and keeping better company, I can tell you, I still suffer from some of those same personality characteristics. And we are funny critters. Because sometimes I'd rather be right than happy. And that makes me really lonely. And I've discovered seeking a faith that I can keep seeking and God will meet me where I am. I was one of those people that I wore one of the pagan religions on my dog tags when I got activated for Desert Storm. Not so much that I was dedicated to that particular choice. I just didn't want a good Christian burial. And I got a little bit of scrutiny, because you're either very right or very wrong. And sometimes being very wrong is safer because it keeps people at a distance. When I went to basic training, I went as a part-time soldier because I didn't know how I'd do with authority. If you love me, you put me in charge. And if you don't, you grind me under heel. That's what I learned at home. And I discovered there is no one better to play the game of military presentation than somebody who comes from where I came from. We know how to show up, we know how to survey the dangers, and we know how to present ourselves well. We know how to choose the right language, we know how to ally ourselves with the safest of the choices. We also know how to run away. And it's really hard to know what the truth is when the commanding authorities say the sky is violet on Tuesdays. It's orange on Thursdays. And I have to agree with you regardless of what day it is. So this whole idea of telling the truth today has been one of those skills that I've had to grasp and continue to sharpen and develop my technique. I can't just be satisfied with being able to sign my name with that pen. I have to figure out how to make my story, how to draw a picture, and how to make the space to say thank you in a way that somebody can keep. in case they need it for later. So, I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, as rare as a diamond in the desert. Might have been something I just heard as a kid because my dad was a grand storyteller. But there really are diamonds in the desert. And I was stationed at King Khalid Military City, and out of lack of entertainment and a need to have a moment to just be and not be in charge or under scrutiny, because I served during a time where I went back into the closet for the privilege of wearing the uniform, which I believed was my birthright. And during that time, I could go to prison. And it caused more than a little bit of stress. And it's caused me to lose some precious relationships. Because things were the way they were, I had to make the choice to not affect their career. Because in spite of my own shortcomings, I didn't feel it was okay for me to steal somebody else's opportunities. And I needed the support, y'all. But growing up in the military, one more community and family, that code was really important. The integrity, the honesty, there's another word there, but it escapes me right at the moment. It was a lot easier to join the military at 19 than it was to stay in the military at 25. And at that time, it was too hot in the kitchen. And it was just a matter of time before I was going to get found out, and it was going to reflect poorly on others. So I finished my contract and I got out. Still seeking. While I was overseas, that other saying took place. There's no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole. That's absolutely true. Absolutely. I didn't even realize how indelibly the stressors, the actual experiences, left creases in my psyche until I saw the missiles going across the TV between Iran and Israel. And I could remember being stuck in that mask, sounding like Darth Vader, wondering if it was going to come down on me. I remember what it was like to be in Khobar Towers. I was a half mile away from where that Marine base got hit. And the place that we moved into in King Khalid Military City had just had a Scud come in there the day before we took occupation. But it wasn't quite real until I had my moment where I went, "Dear God, I'm wrong." I was so afraid. I was invited into people's homes, and I broke bread overseas. You know, one of the hellos, at least in that region, among the native people there, is "Wassalamu alaikum." May you bring God with you. Alaikum assalam. May you take God with you. And I had this naive, childlike belief that if I could understand how this other culture prayed, I would be able to communicate with them, be able to use this language I'd been exposed to. And one day I woke up and I had been dreaming in Arabic. And I thought, yeah, you're being grandiose, Bob. But no, some of it was there. And it's absolutely true that when I can understand how a person prays, we connect closer than the family we're born into. And that comfort is something that I'm always seeking. That inclusivity that I recognize as God setting his hand on my shoulder and going, "They're there. They're there." I got to share Ramadan feast in Kuwait with the family. I took a sergeant, I took a private, and as the woman that can't drive in uniform, I did my best. And I had been playing chess with this Kuwaiti woman who had grown up in Egypt, and they call it shach, the game of chess. And she would teach me Arabic, and I would teach her English. And I got invited to that Ramadan feast, and they shared with us everything that they had left. And several members of the family said, bring him home, bring him home. And I had to ask why, because I kept saying, bring him home. Well, they had uncles and fathers that had been taken from the dinner table and never saw him again. And because I had the experiences that were so indelible and so close to what I was willing to feel and admit that I had a thought or a feeling about, I was conflicted because we don't have problems in that part of the military. You don't get it committed on paper, and that's the way it is. The downside on this is when they rip the Band-Aid off, we not only don't have problems, and now we have problems, but we don't have tools either. And thank goodness the culture and the support system have changed so much. So the second year I was back after Desert Storm, I was still seeking, still looking for God. I'd read the Quran. I grew up in one of the big five. I'd read the Bible cover to cover. I'd read a lot of other fun and interesting ways to look at the world, and I just kept looking for something I could sink my teeth into and trust. And recovery was about as close as I've ever come, because it was like sacred math. 2 + 2 = 4. You do certain things, you get certain results. You don't do certain things, you get those results. You tell the truth, you figure out what the truth is, and you review and upgrade. That worked for me. That gift of desperation was effective. It made sense to me. And they lift you up as long as you're trying. And I needed that. I seek that validation. So I started my round of churches again. And then I was invited to go to a sweat lodge. Now, all I knew about the Native culture, really, was that you had to be invited. They didn't like it to be stolen, and it needed to be treated respectfully, and you had to be invited. And what I discovered is, one more time, people want to know who your people are, and they want to know who speaks for you. And that was the beginning of a significant change from my inside out. Because I kind of got that from my military training. It was a really constructive thing to do the first 5 years of my recovery, because I was one of those people, I needed some boundaries because I didn't come in here with any of those. And I had one of those experiences, that you wonder if you're ever going to have. And the first time that I prayed in that sweat lodge, I knew the words to the songs, and I was home. Now, I'm going to clarify, just because I found a home doesn't mean I understood what I found. And compassion and humility, and generosity and integrity, these are common threads in every spiritual belief I've come in contact with that I've valued. And this community was no different. Now, the ones that concentrate on spirituality do definitely also believe in the principle of self-support through our own contributions. That's spiritual fitness. It works with that spiritual math. But I have to be cautious when it comes to power, money, influence. I have to be clean with admitting, why am I here? Am I keeping my commitments, or am I showing out? Am I bringing you the grandiosity of where I've been and who I know? Or am I of service to God's other kids? So I've been praying this way now for a long time. I've been home from Desert Storm over 30 years, and I found this a couple years after I got back. And I had to change communities a couple times because I have a difficult time working and playing with others. I have a hard time telling the truth. Because honestly, I have a hard time recognizing what the truth is. But I love that the fact that the 12-step rooms give me the option to review and upgrade. State the truth as I know it, and go, okay, if that is not true, set it aside, what is true? And so I can take the things that work and set the table with those, and then break bread with you to find my peace. And I discover that when that intimacy is present, I'm not lonely. And that is the one thing that I remember more than anything else in seeking, is that the loneliness drove me to find that connection. So I am one of those God kids that's kind of doomed to do great things, which means that I'm going to volunteer to do things that most people look at it and go, no, not doing that. There's nothing greater than discovering that you must do something and discovering that you can do it and finding that you have to not be who you thought you were to get there. I wasn't real friendly with my container when I got here, and I didn't really trust the other chicks either. And I've grown up in public and been held accountable. And today I'm pretty comfortable with my container. And I've learned to care for myself, and thankfully I've achieved a little bit of compatibility because I've been with my partner now for 28 years. Yeah. And I'm home. I'm home right here in North Texas. And I love my life, and I love y'all. Thank you for welcoming me into your community and allowing me to share with you the difference between secret and sacred. Secret's something that I get to hold. It's mine. Sacred is what you choose carefully who you offer it to, because you want it to be treated with the same reverence and respect that you hold it in your heart. I don't know exactly who God is, but I really try to be comfortable with the idea that He's an artist and He's a musician. And He presents those repeating rhythms and those repeating fractals and the families that come back and look very similar over and over again, so that the best things and the things that allow us to see that they're the best, that we nod at each other and we go, that's part of who we are. It takes the savory and the sweet. It takes the loud and the contemplative. And it is as rare as a diamond in the desert. You can only see them at sunrise and sunset. Something about these rocks glow. They glow orange or green, and with a little practice, you can collect them. And I was there long enough. I brought home this Folgers can of these rocks. They said, "Oh, Enrique, very beautiful. It's a diamond." I'm like, sure, whatever. I gave away a lot of them. I had a friend that actually had them cut and put in the safety deposit box. I'm like, well, I'm not destined for that kind of greatness, apparently. So currently, I share a monthly prayer time in a women's group. It's a sage group. It is. I'm one of the babies in the group, and I'm fast approaching 60. And they have shown me that aging is possible and that it can be done with good humor and that we don't have to do it alone. And we laugh and we sing and we clean up and we carry in and we carry out. And we treat each other with compassion and respect, kindness and love. And I think those gatherings are where I fill my cup so I can continue to be of service. And so I hope that each of you found something that you could take, because it's not mine. It's just what I bring. And I thank you each. Bless you with good health, good help with those two things. Anything's possible. Thank y'all.
In the spring, we added a second covenant to our weekly worship service. Our Widening the Circle of Concern, WCOC, work takes its name from an in-depth UUA study that was published in 2020, and with which we have been actively engaged ever since. The words of this covenant are in your order of service and will appear on the screen. We, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff, commit ourselves to the study and dismantling of racism and oppression within our congregation. We commit our congregation and ourselves to the work of anti-racism and anti-oppression. We commit ourselves to listening, to learning, and to action. When we fail, we commit ourselves to trying again and again. We covenant to bring and to continue until all of us can truly say that we are a beloved community of justice, equity, and compassion. The gifts you make to our weekly offering or through your annual pledge represent far more than lines on a spreadsheet. Your contribution is a tangible commitment to the mission and vision of this congregation. The offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the vision and values of our faith. Members, if you are contributing cash towards your pledge, please use an envelope from the basket and write your name on it. You can also donate by text or through our website. See your order of service for details. Closing words by Viktor E. Frankl. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.